Greetings of the day and welcome to the National Conference on NEP 2020, Simplified, Pathways to EdTech Implementation, organized by the Department of Education Technology, SNDT Women's University, in collaboration with the Central Institution of Education Technology, CIET, NCERT, as part of the Golden Jubilee celebrations of the Department of Education Technology. 50 glorious years of relentless effort to provide quality education, research, student connect, and new vistas to the field of education technology. The Department of Education Technology has come a long way. May I request the proud head of the department, Dr. Jayashree Shinde, to welcome the dignitaries and participants and speak about the glorious 50 years of the Department of Education Technology, SNDT Women's University. Ma'am, over to you.
Very warm welcome to all of you. Good afternoon. We cordially welcome Honorable Chief Guest Padma Vibhushan Dr. K. Kasturirangan Sir, Professor Ujwala Chakradeo, Honorable Madam Vice-Chancellor, SNDT Women's University. We welcome our advisors, Professor Vasudha Kamath, Chairperson Governing Body CEC UGC and Member NEP Draft Committee. Welcome Shrit Viplav Bakshi, Eminent Educational Technologist and Senior Vice President of NIMBUS. I welcome Professor Ruby Oza, Pro Vice Chancellor of SNDT Women's University.
We have our co-convener partner, Professor Behra from Paris with us. We have our well-wishers with us. I can see Dr. Pradhan and many others to bless us on the occasion of glorious 50 years. Some RRC members, Board of Studies members are also here with us. You can see our motto, Om Sohana Vavatu. We believe in working together, learning together, and developing together. We believe in communication, collaboration, and co-creation. This event is dedicated to Dr. S.S. Kulkarni, Father of Educational Technology in India. This is a brief journey of the department, I will say, where we were the first. Our first memories of first refresher course, our first entry to Juhu campus, our first batch of master's program, our first internship abroad, paid internship. Our students' e-portfolio, we are the first one to start this practice from 2001. The first university's formal website, university's first presentation was developed. University's first online course was started way back in 2007, where Indian universities were not yet to start these courses. Where are we today? We have a beautiful infrastructure. We have desktops, laptops for all our students and faculty. We have e-learning recording studio. We have beautiful talking corridors. We have our master's unique program, and the environment is conducive. Our students always collaborate with each other. We have a beautiful Juhu campus. Students work together in digital and non-digital way. They come out with some creative products. We have so far conducted various research projects, consultancy projects, multimedia development, e-content development. We have RUSA e-learning center, and we have teaching learning center of the Ministry of Education. We have been conducting faculty training in higher education. Before that, we were engaged in school education. Now our main focus is on higher education, and these are some of the areas where we conduct faculty training. We are partnered to our universities, Srimati Kamalate Kakodkar Endowment Fund activities. We have Dr. Pradhan today with us, who is one of the experts on the committee. We pay our tribute today to our first HOD, Professor Rajni Benasher, and our mentor, who was at the establishment of DET, Professor A.W. We pay tribute to the friends, to some of the legendaries, mentors, and our dear students whom we lost during this journey. Thank you for having viewed this beautiful journey of 50 years. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. The journey of the Department of Education Technology and its efforts to provide quality education are really commendable. Heartiest congratulations to the Central Institute of Education and Technology, NCERT, for winning the 2021 UNESCO King Hamad bin Isla Al Khalifa Prize for the use of technology in enabling inclusive, crisis-resilient learning systems during the difficult and trying times of the pandemic. May I request Professor Amarendra Behera, Joint Director, Central Institute of Education Technology, CIT, NCERT, to address the participants. Sir, over to you.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Very good afternoon. Namaskar to all of you. Honorable Professor K. Kasturirangan ji, former Chairman ISRO, and also Chairman of the National Education Policy Drafting Committee, and also the Chairman of the National Steering Committee for Development of the National Curriculum Framework, who is a Padma awardee as well. Honorable Professor Ujwala Chakradeo ji, esteemed Vice-Chancellor of the SNDT Women University, Mumbai. Also esteemed Professor Sudha Kamath ji, one of the mentor of CIET and the former Joint Director of CIET and former Vice-Chancellor of SNDT Women's University, Mumbai, and Biplab Bakshi, Dr. Jayashree Sindeji, Head Department of Educational Technology, SNDT Women University, distinguished participants, academia from different universities, my colleagues from CIET and CERT faculty and technical and production team. First of all, on my personal behalf and on behalf of NCERT, I congratulate the SNDT Women University, especially the Department of Educational Technology, for thinking to collaborate with CIET and NCERT to organize this national level conference on National Education Policy 2020 Simplified Pathways, especially to EdTech implementation, which is again one step ahead for policy implementation. And I must mention that the CIET as a constituent unit of NCERT was set up in 1984. Since then has been working in the area of educational technology, especially the media, new media and technology, including the cyber media. As a part of the broader mandate of NCERT, it takes up the research and the content development programs, including audios, videos, interactives, augmented reality contents, and assessment related contents as well. And also it takes up continuous professional development of teachers, starting from face-to-face to distance to blended mode. And also last not least, it has several dissemination mechanisms for dissemination of the digital content and reaching out to the unreached. And the major initiatives led by CIET include the Honorable Prime Minister's e-Vidya program, under which there is 1 class, 1 TV channel and 1 class, 1 radio channel. And the institute is feeding nearly 12 TV channels and 400 radio stations. It maintains nearly 12 websites and 10 mobile apps. Prominent among them are Diksha, digital infrastructure for knowledge sharing, which is harboring nearly 281,000 digital contents and nearly 7,000 e-courses and 6,000 digital books with QR codes and talking books and audio books as well, and Indian Sign Language videos for the differently abled learners. We work towards implementation of the policy goals and also conduct a lot of research and extension activities to promote and motivate teachers. The institute organizes National ICT Award for school teachers, teacher educators, and the states also. And the institute organizes dozens of national level quizzes where lakhs of children and teachers participate. And also the institute takes up many digital publications, including a biannual educational technology journal and others. These are some of the work we have been doing. We collaborate with a large number of partners, and as far as our collaboration with SNDT Women University is concerned, it is way back in 2008-9 when Professor Vasudha Kamatji was the Joint Director of CIET. And I hope this collaboration will further help to implement the NEP 2020 goals in a better manner, starting from the school education to higher education, nursery to tertiary. And also we will be working for the realization of the vision of our Honorable Prime Minister also, while he talks about skill, scale and speed, using technology to achieve that, and also achieve it $3 trillion economy for digital education in the country. So with these words, once again, I congratulate the SNDT Women University Mumbai for such a national level conference. And we will be happy to collaborate in any way in future also. Thanks to the Honorable Vice-Chancellor for giving us this opportunity. Thank you very much. Namaskar.
Thank you so much, sir. May I now request Dr. Jayashree Shinde to introduce Padma Vibhushan respected Dr. K. Kasturirangan, Chief Guest of the inaugural function.
I'm honored to receive the world-known and the nation's pride astrophysicist, Honorable Dr. Krishnaswamy Kasturirangan, for the inaugural session of our conference. It is indeed a great fortune for us all, the Indians and the educationists, that a scientist possessing wide interest in space science applications, technologies, national and international science-related policies and legal regimes, devoted and dedicated more than 2 years to frame Indian students' future. He chaired the committee that drafted National Education Policy 2020 and now is chairperson of the National Steering Committee for developing the NCF, that is National Curricular Framework, in light of NEP 2020. After spending 25 years in ISRO, Dr. Kasturirangan chaired ISRO, that is Indian Space Research Organization, for 10 years. He worked on the design and development of early satellite systems of ISRO and played a key role in shaping of India's remote sensing satellite capabilities. ISRO is now blessed to have him as honorary distinguished advisor. Dr. Kasturirangan is currently Chancellor of Central University of Rajasthan, Chairman Governing Board, Inter-University Center for Astronomy and Astrophysics, that is Ayuka Pune, Chairperson NIIT University Nimrana, Member Atomic Energy Commission, Emeritus Professor at National Institute of Advanced Studies, NIS Bangalore, Member of Council and Trust, Raman Research Institute, Bangalore. He was a nominated member of Rajya Sabha and later member of the erstwhile Planning Commission from 2009 to 14. Sir is a member of all 4 National Science Academies of India and several international academies. He is a member of the International Astronomical Union and a fellow of the World Academy of Sciences. He is an academician of the Pontifical Academy of Sciences, Vatican City, and honorary fellow of Cardiff University, UK. Sir is the only Indian to be conferred the honorary membership of the International Academy of Astronautics. Needless to say, several awards are conferred on Dr. Kasturirangan. To name a few: Shanti Swarup Bhatnagar Award, 4th SIS Shri Chandrasekharendra Saraswati National Eminence Award, Brock Medal, Ellen D. Emil Memorial Award, Theodore Corman Award, Basavashri Prashasti from Shri Murugamata, Karnataka. He has been conferred with the Rajyotsav Prashasti from Government of Karnataka. And the highest civilian honors, as you all know, Padma Shri, Padma Bhushan and Padma Vibhushan by the President of India. Sir is awarded Officer of the Legion d'Honneur in 2002 by the President of the French Republic, France. I request Sir to enlighten us on the revolutionary concept of Multidiversity University of NEP 2020. Thank you.
Thank you. I am delighted to participate in this Golden Jubilee year celebrations of the Department of Educational Technology, SNDT Women's University, which is being organized in collaboration with the Central Institute of Educational Technology, CIET, of the NCERT. The theme you have chosen for this conference, NEP 2020 Simplified, Pathways to Educational Technology Implementation, is most timely and appropriate. I would like to congratulate the Vice-Chancellor, Professor Ujwala Chakradeo, for taking this important initiative. As a visionary guiding the destiny of this 106-year-old women's university, Professor Ujwala Chakradeo has been extremely proactive in not only consolidating several different academic activities, but also providing futuristic directions in the field of education by taking early steps in implementing the NEP 2020 into the SNDT Women's University Education System. I would like to compliment Dr. Jayashree Shinde, the head of the Department of Educational Technology of SNDT University, for giving concrete shape to this program jointly with Professor Amarendra Singh Behra, Joint Director CIET and CERT, established in 1973 by none other than the legendary Professor Vasudha Kamath. In fact, she was a key mentor for many years and also the director of the center. This Department of Educational Technology today offers programs involving postgraduate e-learning, research activities leading to PhD, as well as online credit courses in the field of the educational technology. Working together with CIET of NCERT, the department has been actively involved in developing e-content and training facilities for higher education. I am glad to note that my very valued colleague, Professor Vasudha Kamath, has played a central role in shaping this concept and giving it the necessary high-level credentials as a center of excellence in education technology. Professor Vasudha Kamath's contribution in crafting the national education policy hardly needs any emphasis. Her wide-ranging knowledge and experience and even deeper insights into the future of education technology made her an outstanding member of our national committee, for which we are all grateful to her. Further, she was a very effective internal critic in ensuring perfection and coherence in the presentation of our draft report. I am delighted to see her address this August gathering today on the very important aspect of implementation of NET 2020 responsibilities of HEIS. We all look forward. Of course, I also recognize the participation of such eminent educationists as Professor M.M. Pant, Professor Sanjeev Sanjeti, and Sri Biplav Bakshi in this conference. Their valued insights into theme of this conference will considerably enrich its proceedings. In my discussions with the Vice-Chancellor and Director of the Department of Educational Technology, it was suggested that the theme for my address could center around the aspects of holistic and multidisciplinary education, alternately designated as liberal education. The national education policy places significant emphasis on the aspects of liberal education, which is in essence represents a substantial shift in the paradigm of our present higher education system, particularly at the undergraduate level. During major part of my talk, I will devote to this subject with respect to its imperative in the modern education, as well as the multiple dimensions of progressing this concept into our higher educational system. Before I move into this main topic of my talk, I would like to spend a few minutes on some of the general aspects of NEP 2020 for the sake of completeness of my narration. Even though the focus of today's gathering is higher education, it will not be out of place for me to begin with a few words on school education, not only because of its intrinsic importance, but also because the way in which a student experiences the schooling phase of education could have significant influence on those who subsequently pursue their higher education, besides, of course, helping to lay the foundation for lifelong learning. The policy is informed by advances in developmental, cognitive, and educational psychology, which indicate that the expanded 5 plus 3 plus 3 plus 4 design is better suited to the child's learning trajectory from perceptual learning to conceptual learning and then on to prescriptive learning and abstraction. The last phase of 4 years of school education will facilitate multidisciplinary studies. A strong schooling system that respects these natural development phases is essential to prepare students for higher education. When it comes to higher education, the biggest policy shift is the 4-year degree program and ushering the aspects of liberal education encompassing the concepts of holisticity and multidisciplinarity. In the 4-year undergraduate program, the initial phase, say the first 2 years, will develop broad-based liberal education and allow students room to explore their interests in a multidisciplinary space, keeping in mind holisticity. The subsequent phase of the UG will provide students with options to prepare more directly for the world of work. The policy also envisages bringing these approaches of liberal education into teacher education and specialized vocational training and moving these two elements of education to higher educational institutions. Students will also have options to pursue undergraduate research, and a 4-year honors degree will give them direct access to PhD programs. A discussion on the broader aspects of higher education will be incomplete without touching upon the crucial area of research. India's present lack of high-quality research output not only places our country at a serious short-term disadvantage on strategic and economic fronts, but it also has a severe long-term disadvantage because quality research is essential for quality education. While the policy calls for an increase in funding for research, it is more critical to emphasize the revised mechanism for ensuring that these funds are used in a more efficient and accountable way. This mechanism is the National Research Foundation, the NRF as we designated, whose primary role is to act as an interface between the government agencies on the one hand and the academic institutions on the other. NRF will nurture a vibrant research ecosystem through adequate funding, mentoring, and careful monitoring. NRF will support multidisciplinary research in arts and humanities, social sciences, sciences and mathematics, engineering and technology, including educational technology. NRF can create unique opportunities to universities which provide education in liberal arts encompassing social sciences, humanities, and other related subjects. The NRF was born out of the felt need to increase the quantum and scope of quality research across all disciplines and to create a much larger workforce of trained researchers within the country, particularly within the university system. This will enable India to become a more competitive knowledge economy and help fulfill the goal set by our Honorable Prime Minister for an Atmanirbhar Bharat. Recognizing this conference is being organized on the eve of the Golden Jubilee celebrations to commemorate the establishment of the Department of Educational Technology of SNDT UW, a few observations that are pertinent to use of educational technology as enunciated in the policy is in order. NEP 2020 makes an explicit commitment to ensure the effective use of technology, including advanced technologies like AI and virtual reality in all spheres of education, the teaching learning process, in education administration and planning, and in assessment. It does this with equally explicitly committing to the centrality of the teacher in education and considering technology as an aid to the teacher. It is also cognizant of the persistent digital divide, which has come out so sharply with the unfortunate pandemic recently. To enable this necessary fine and effective balance, it envisages the establishment of the National Educational Technology Forum, NETF, with the mandate to provide independent evidence-based advice to central and state government agencies on technology-based interventions, build intellectual and institutional capacities in educational technology, envision strategic thrust, and articulate new directions for research and innovation. In our view, NETF will play a key role in ensuring that we put technology to the best use in education. I may add with pride that the relevant concepts of NETF were given proper shape by Professor Vasudha Kamath, making it an important part of NEP 2020. The policy also articulates some elements of emerging disruptive technologies, particularly focusing on artificial intelligence, virtual reality, and expert systems in the context of their applicability to the various facets of education. Among other things, I would like to briefly mention some of these innovative technologies in the context of education. The National Digital Education Architecture, NDA, and the Digital Infrastructure for School Education, DICSA, are two notable examples of the applications of AI in education recently. This infrastructure provides AI building blocks with central and state government agencies, as well as to India's thriving edtech educational system that can utilize to enhance and augment the capabilities of all key stakeholders, learners, their parents, teachers, and educational administrators. Another critical application for AI in education is for language translation and handwriting recognition. India has taken a public goods approach by setting up a dedicated language AI mission to open up language data sets and AI models. Bhashini, the National Language Translation Mission, aims to play a vital role in this journey. It is the world's largest Indic language data and model corpus for open AI innovation. Coming to instances of AI in the classroom, once again, there is a clear potential for AI to positively impact teaching learning processes in the classroom, but we need to be far more cautious. NETF that we discussed earlier is precisely going to look at these issues. As another example, we can consider the use of AI to assess learners with disabilities. Perhaps the most famous example is the sophisticated system that enabled Professor Stephen Hawking to communicate his incredible ideas despite his progressively worsening affliction of motor neuron disease. It is against this backdrop that I would like to now give an account of the various aspects of multidisciplinary education framework for the country as detailed in the NEP 2020. In the previous century, Albert Einstein metaphorically spoke of religions, arts, and sciences as branches of the same tree. This metaphor suggests a unified trunk, but it unfortunately also evokes a mental picture of the branches of knowledge splitting off and growing further apart from each other. This incorrect mental image is reinforced when we introduce boundaries between disciplines by constraining their objects of study, their established accepted theoretical traditions, and their fostered consensus on valid forms of evidence, interpretation, and explanation. The concept of liberal arts literally means a liberal notion of arts, and it explicitly rejects the notion that these branches are separate. As we have stated in the policy, the purpose and importance of a liberal arts education, especially today, is to enable students to explore the numerous and remarkable intertwined relationship that exist among the mathematics, the sciences and the humanities, mathematics and arts, medicine and physics, and so on, and more generally, to explore the surprising unity of all efforts of human endeavor. Early scholars were adept at such exploration, guided simply by their curiosity. Aryabhatta one, for instance, discovered truths in mathematics, in astronomy, and in disciplines that were only just being defined. This is the hallmark of multidisciplinarity, and I'll expand on this term later in the talk. For now, I want to point out that despite having served us so well for so long, there is enough evidence that disciplinarity and disciplinary or even multidisciplinary approaches alone cannot satisfy our demands of a broad-based knowledge in the 21st century. Why? Because increasingly we are grappling with problems that are too broad or complex to be adequately tackled within a single discipline or cannot be broken up and handed to experts from several disciplines. This is not the first time we have tried to deal with such problems, but an increasing number of the problems we are faced with are all of this nature. And examples of such a problem is, of course, you are all familiar, which is the climate change. Obviously, the goal of school and undergraduate education cannot be to train young minds to successfully solve problems that challenge the professionals. But they are key elements of the process that professionals follow, which the young students can and must be exposed to. This can only be done by broadening the single discipline approach. What are some of these key elements that our education system should focus on? A critical element is a clear communication. We often have to solve broad, complex problems in teams where each member brings certain expertise to the table. Each of these members must be able to communicate effectively, not only with experts within their own discipline, using a rich and shared discipline-specific vocabulary, but with others on the team who do not possess this vocabulary. Language fluency is obviously a key element, but so too are the critical and analytical reasoning, partly because these skills can help individuals rapidly expand an initially narrow shared vocabulary and thereby communicate more effectively. Effective communication between humans goes well beyond vocabulary, of course. It includes an understanding of diverse cultures, perceptiveness, and sensitivity to different perspectives. Thus, these are also key elements. Naturally, cooperation and collaboration are also key elements for an effective teamwork. Exposure to multidisciplinary ways of thinking is a joy in itself, or of itself, for any learner, particularly for you youngsters in the audience, perhaps because it is strongly associated with your holistic mental development. A liberal arts education enables you to truly develop both sides of your brain, both the creative stroke artistic side and the analytical side. No education system should deprive you of this joy or this opportunity to develop holistically. Apart from being a joy, it is increasingly clear that the 21st century will demand greater flexibility in ways of thinking, and this can only come through greater exposure to diverse ways of thinking. You might argue that multidisciplinary ways of thinking are encouraged even within our traditional disciplinary approach. After all, where would a physicist be without mathematics, or a psychologist without biology? While this is generally true, these are clearly narrowly separated disciplines. They have often had a long shared history with regular exchanges of ideas, as is the case with physics and mathematics. In Einstein's tree metaphor, we would not picture sharply diverging branches of physics and mathematics. Returning now to the educational context, it is clear that the key ingredient that must exist between a multidisciplinary approach is some degree of integration across disciplines. Let me explain this with a concrete example. Consider a course that helps students understand music from many disciplinary perspectives. A physics professor might lead some lectures explaining the physics of sound waves, frequency, amplitude, etc. Next, a psychology professor might discuss the emotional aspects of music and how music could influence mood and behavior. A history professor could demonstrate how music changes over time and how it is shaped by events of the time, and how it can even influence some of these events. One can argue that such a course is multidisciplinary, but unless students have the opportunities to integrate ideas from various lectures in a meaningful way by completing a project or writing a detailed essay, for instance, then students are unlikely to compare and contrast these varying perspectives. These student activities can be crafted only when the various professors coordinate how they plan to teach the class, including by directly referencing each other's lectures to help students see the connections. That's why the policy states unequally, and I quote from the policy, the needs of the 21st century require that liberal, broad-based, multidisciplinary education become the basis for all higher education. This will help develop well-rounded individuals that possess critical 21st century capacities across in fields across the arts, humanities, sciences, science or social sciences, and professional and technical crafts, and ethic of social engagement, and vigorous specialization in a chosen field or fields. Such a liberal education would be, in the long run, the approach across all undergraduate programs, including those in professional, technical, and vocational disciplines. This is what I quoted from the policy. So how can institutions ensure the necessary degree of integration to go beyond the mere multidisciplinarity? At least two models for integration have been proposed. For simplicity, I will call these the soft integration model and the strong integration model. The soft integration model is an evolution of the traditional disciplinary-based structure that most institutions follow today, where students typically major in one discipline but are free to choose additional courses in other disciplines, possibly leading to a minor. The crucial difference is that a certain proportion of the curriculum at the course level or at the program level must be reserved for dialogue between multiple disciplines and their respective methodologies. In the spirit of a true dialogue, the purpose must not be to overtly challenge multiple viewpoints and choose a correct one, but to help students recognize the promise and value in considering more than one viewpoint. These dialogues must include experts from each represented domain, and they can take several familiar forms: classroom discussions, seminars, workshops, etc. But these cannot be isolated events. While this mode is pedagogy heavy, it can be complemented with interdisciplinary projects of similar complexity to traditional subjects at the undergraduate level. In contrast, the strong integration model is a substantial departure from the traditional multidisciplinary-based program structure. Instead, programs are defined by critical but sufficiently broad problem areas such as clean energy or adult literacy or a heritage preservation. The fidelity is to the problem, not to the one or a handful of disciplines. Indeed, relevant elements from any discipline that can help to understand and address the problem are fair game for inclusion in such programs. Thus, a clean energy program will probably include core courses in physics, renewable energy technologies, energy economics, as well as a host of electives that could be attuned to specific research and consultancy projects that the institution has strength in. Throughout, the search is for a solution or a better solution according to a relevant metric, recognizing that breakthroughs will often be interdisciplinary or transdisciplinary in nature. In contrast to the pedagogy-heavy soft integration model, the strong integration model will tend to be more research consultancy-heavy. The policy rejects a one-size-fits-all approach for recognizing the importance of institutional autonomy. It does not even compel institutions to immediately follow the liberal arts model. There will be a transition period, during which time some institutions may pay more lip service to such a model or may develop flawed models based on a misunderstanding of the principles. I've tried to articulate here These institutions risk compromising not only the long-term growth of their graduates, but also their own survivability. I can see some of these signs right now, the early phase of trying to implement the liberal education within the institutions. However, I fully expect several institutions to successfully develop a variety of models of liberal education that truly empower their graduates. Prominent among these will be the model public universities for holistic and multidisciplinary education at par with IITs, IIMs, etc., called the MERUs, the multidisciplinary education and research universities. These institutions will help set the highest standards of multidisciplinary education across India and will aim to attain the highest global standards in quality education. They must also lead national efforts to train faculty to transition from disciplinary to interdisciplinary programs. I am convinced that the success of such institution will encourage others to follow the suit. Thus, I expect a return in some ways to a model for education reminiscent of our earlier time, Banabhatta's Kadambari, written 1400 years ago, described truly educated person as one who had mastered all 64 kalas or arts, which included music, dance, painting, sculpture, languages, and literature, in addition to subjects such as engineering and mathematics, as well as vocational subjects such as carpentry. While the number and nature of these kalas will surely differ, the principles will be largely the same. A comprehensive liberal arts education will develop all capacities of the human being, I repeat, intellectual, aesthetic, social, physical, emotional, and moral in an integrated manner. Besides the arguments in favor of liberal education mentioned earlier, an important consideration is strongly recommending the need for liberal education in the 21st century India is superbly articulated in Yashpal's report. This is as early as 2009, the relevant portion of which I quote. We have overlooked that many new knowledge and new insights have often originated at the boundaries of disciplines. Most instrumentalities of our education harm the potential of the human mind for creating and constructing new knowledge. One could almost say that the most serious problems of the world today arise from the fact that we are dominated by striations of expertise with deep chasms in between. And I unquote. One could argue that these chasms are sometimes bridgeable. Indeed, the hallmark of any successful multidisciplinary affairs is a framework in which experts can largely work within their well-defined silos while facilitating engagement with experts from other disciplines at specific points in the overall process. This is manageable as long as all disciplines agree on a common structure imposed by the problem and perhaps certain constraints on the solutions. This agreed upon structure is sometimes called as an interface. In software development, you are quite familiar, for example, the team may spend considerable time jointly designing the interface, more precisely an application programming interface or an API. Once the interface has been properly designed, the team can split up and work within their silos, as the interface is explicitly meant to minimize and ideally eliminate the need for members to communicate further across the disciplines. There are still other ways of problems where even an interdisciplinary approach is insufficient. Instead, the team must adopt a transdisciplinary approach that not only integrates several discipline-specific approaches, but also extends these approaches to generate fundamentally new conceptual frameworks, hypotheses, theories, models, and methodological applications that transcend their transdisciplinary origins. Such an approach is particularly relevant with problems spanning across arts and humanities on the one hand and science and technology on the other. This approach is increasingly necessary in cutting-edge research, and it can lead to the emergence of new sub-disciplines or even whole new disciplines. As an example, consider the landscape archaeology. Whereas traditional archaeology focuses on studying small-scale remnants of the past, ranging from fragments of pottery to individual structures, or at most a cluster of structures. Landscape archaeology expands the realm of study to include surrounding landscapes. These landscapes can hold either two uncovered, discovered clues to the past that are detectable using remote sensing technologies. The transdisciplinary research in this context has led to the development of new techniques to analyze remote sensing data, from integrating it with other historical data drawn from old maps using GIS technologies, the geographic information approaches. Interestingly, this transdisciplinary approach has led to new insights into the history of one of the iconic transdisciplinary institutions of this country, namely Nalanda. By measuring the precise orientation of the sacred structures using satellite imagery, researchers have discovered that structures that are built later were tilted further away from the east-west line than their earlier structures. To explain this, the researchers weave together the insight from history and astronomy. In doing so, they have arrived at a surprising technique to date these structures. This, in turn, has advanced our knowledge because these sacred structures are difficult to date using traditional techniques. In the context of introduction of liberal education, one should also take into account the potential for significant and rapid transformations in the world of work and the consequent shocks to the wider social fabric caused by advances in disruptive technologies. Today, we can easily identify specific forms of livelihood that are threatened by the AI revolution. What is quite remarkable is that such a threat was recognized more than 5 decades ago by Dr. Vikram Sarabhai, with whom I had the privilege of working in his 1968 convocation address at IIT Madras. And I quote, "In nature, left to itself, control is maintained through an ecological balance. Order is not imposed from above, but arises through the interaction of each unit with its environment in a dynamic equilibrium." On the other hand, inherent in the program of accelerated development, there is a suppression of some of the natural constraints which prevent divergence. Even as the rate of innovation, of discovery, and of everything else in the world gets faster and faster, so does the obsolescence of people, and things become even more acute. The qualitative change which has occurred in the last decade with the development of atomic energy, with the exploration and use of space, with the advent of electronics and computer sciences, is a manifestation of the divergent human function which has suddenly overtaken the world. What we have witnessed so far, dramatic as it is probably pedestrian compared to what we can expect in the future. This is by Dr. Vikram Sarabhai, and I quote. Against this, let us ask for ourselves, how is our education system going to prevent the obsolescence of people? Failing to do so could, in the deliberately thought and action provoking words of the historian, I'm sure many of you know, Yuval Noah Harari, lead to the rise of a useless class. This is a sobering thought, bearing in mind that our present education system fails to university provide an even foundational literacy and numeracy. Even when it does provide these necessary foundations, that does not prepare the graduates for an uncertain world buffeted by pandemics, climate change, and AI. Knowing that every graduate entering the job market today will look forward not only to several jobs, but also several careers during their working life. And this is the message that one would like to see. A liberal education has the potential to provide graduates with a combination of transferable and uniquely human skills to help them adopt and continuously learn to work in this challenging environment. Having discussed the question of why liberal education now, let us turn our focus to the equally important question: how can we implement liberal education at scale in India? Designing a liberal education program is obviously not a simple matter of offering a set of unrelated courses or even courses where some lectures examine a central theme from the perspective of one discipline, or the other lectures examine the same theme from the perspective of other disciplines. Bearing in mind the history of discussed earlier, we have several excellent previously tried approaches to liberal education that we can examine and learn from. Let us first articulate some key discipline agnostic elements that seem absolutely necessary. Fostering the ability to communicate clearly has already been emphasized in the earlier part of my talk. Even at the expense of repeating some of these arguments, I would like to consider it appropriate to articulate these related ideas in the context of the present narrative. Graduates are increasingly tasked with solving broad, complex problems in teams, where each member brings certain expertise to the table, is what I mentioned earlier. Each of these members must be able to communicate effectively, not only with experts within their own discipline using a rich and shared discipline-specific vocabulary, but with others on a team who do not possess this vocabulary. Language fluency is obviously an important sub-element, but so too are critical and analytical reasoning, partly because these skills can help individuals rapidly expand an initially narrow shared vocabulary and thereby communicate more effectively. Effective communication between humans goes well beyond vocabulary, of course. It includes an understanding of diverse cultures, perceptiveness, and sensitivity to different perspectives. Thus, these are also key elements. Naturally, cooperation and collaboration are also key elements. Some of these, even as I said, mentioned earlier, I have repeated it to emphasize this particular argument at this stage. Let us now discuss two approaches that lie in the pathway towards liberal education and have an established pedigree in India: the practice of integrated education in the IITs and the principles of management education as practiced in the IIMs. It is worth pointing out that both these types of institutions enjoy far greater resources and regulatory advantages than the vast majority of our higher education institutions. Several policies of NE 2020 seek to level the playing field in the latter category. The lack of resources will always be a challenge, and it will be necessary to find creative ways to maximize the resources that can be brought to bear to implement the related approaches. The approach to liberal education as practiced by the IIMs and other top management institutions is worth studying in this connection. In many aspects, a liberal approach is almost forced in this context. Business problems tend to be highly complex, where the boundaries between causes and effects are blurred. There are multiple positive and negative feedback loops, and it is generally very difficult to separate out the essential elements of the problem from the noise in the system. Solutions to such problems are rarely optimal in a quantifiable sense, and they must combine explicit knowledge of the basic disciplines with tacit knowledge that comes from practice. Specific pedagogical approaches, particularly the case method, have been developed and refined to facilitate learning. In the case method, students must learn to draw inferences from common patterns that they observe from various cross-section of real-life illustrations and of best practices. Of course, these pattern recognition or synthesis skills must be coupled with the harder and more quantitative understanding of the core principles of management, such as statistics, finance, and economics, as well as domain-specific knowledge. In fact, a key trend confronting MBA programs today is the demand for graduates who are ready to work from today, day one, in domain-specific jobs. Not the best way to happen. In giving a flavor to which one can proceed with implementation of the liberal education model, I have in mind the possibility of SNDT-based Women's University and a strong, varied academic base to come up with a range of baseline models for liberal education, keeping in mind the broad spectrum of higher educational institutions that operate under you. Such baseline models must include an aspect of the NEP 2020 does not explicitly detail, but one that is extremely important, the need to train faculty for liberal education. An immediate challenge is the shortage of master faculty with sufficient expertise to adequately train other faculty. A greater concern is a substantial shift that is necessary in the present academic culture, where interaction between faculty, between students and faculty, and between students is generally poor. It's immediately clear that both the soft and strong integration models discussed earlier are unworkable in such an environment. We must recognize that changing this culture is likely to require conscious and sustained effort because it has deep historical roots. In fact, some scholars have argued that the etymology of the Sanskrit term Upanishad, which is Upa means near to, Ni means down, Sat means to sit, reflects a prevailing atmosphere where the transmission of knowledge was restricted to only those in physical proximity, but otherwise shrouded in secrecy. Such an atmosphere is explicitly encouraged in the Rasara Samuchaya, a compilation from the 13th, 14th, and 16th century, which states that this chemical knowledge is powerful when secret, important when public, so guard it with determination as you would the privacy of your mother. Besides translating many of the key recommendations of this policy into concrete educational program within your institution, SNDT, the Women's University, should strive to become a fountainhead of inspiration and knowledge that could help other institutions to follow your methods and approaches. The recommendations of NEP 2020 enjoy broad and enthusiastic support. It is also heartening to see that almost all the criticism was constructive and detailed in nature. It indicated that the authors were reacting to the actual policy statements and not just to newspaper headlines or trending tweets. In conclusion, liberal education is a key pillar of NEP 2020. When implemented in the spirit we have articulated here, it can unlock all capacities of the human being, which, as I said earlier, intellectual, aesthetic, social, physical, emotional, and moral, in an integrated manner. It is individuals with these characteristics who will one day proudly call themselves Indians. And that, we are certain, will be the bedrock of a better India and a better world. SNDTUW, I am sure, will play a central role in the key transformations of the NEP 2020, will help to affect towards making India a preeminent dynamic knowledge society. I wish you the very best in this noble task. In the drafting of this project, I would also acknowledge I drew heavily from the previous work of many erudite personalities. I would like to specially highlight the name of Professor Vasudha Kamath, Professor Anurag Bair, Professor Manjul Sharma, Professor Viraj Kumar, and many others. To all these many others, I would like to express my deep gratitude. I would like to once again express my great appreciation and the gratitude to all the organizers, the Vice-Chancellor, the Director, and others who gave me this privilege of addressing this very erudite gathering on an issue and on a subject which I think is going to be very critical in the context of evaluating the success of the NEP 2020 itself. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. Words really fall short to express our appreciation for such an lucid and enlightening address. I'm sure each one of us would carry bits and pieces of the amazing address that you gave all of us and work towards quality education. Thank you so much once again.
Kasturirangan sir may leave any time now onwards. So on behalf of the university, I thank him, and we are really, really grateful, sir. And we wish we will always seek your guidance and mentoring in our journey ahead. So, thank you very much.
It is an honor to be introducing Honorable Madam Vice-Chancellor of SNDT Women's University, Professor Ujwala Chakradeo. Madam took charge as the Vice-Chancellor of SNDT Women's University in September 2021. The university is indeed fortunate to have a dynamic Vice-Chancellor like Madam, who had initiated several reforms and revitalization processes in such a short span of 5 months. The strategic plan for the university for the next 5 years is ready under a able and dynamic leadership. Madam is a visionary architect and urban planner with extensive experience in designing and planning several prestigious architecture projects like the Design and Research Super Speciality Government Dental College, Administrative Building of ICMR Nagpur, Master Plan for Comprehensive Tourism Development for the UP Tourism Department, and various projects of interior design and architecture for the RTM Nagpur University and the design of Srinivas Public School for WES, to name a few. Madam was involved in teaching architecture for over 35 years. She worked as professor and principal at the Srimati Manorama Bai Mandle College of Architecture in Nagpur. Her deep involvement in exploring methods and means of teaching architecture resulted in the development of a unique M.Arch in Architecture education program for the RTM Nagpur University, which is the first of its kind in India. She was also instrumental in launching M.Arch in Urban Design program in her college. Madam is an alumna of the prestigious Visvesvaraya National Institute of Technology and Visvesvaraya Regional College of Engineering, Nagpur. Her doctoral research was in impact of social change of architecture education in India. Her experiences with her students are documented in the Marathi book Scale Aniti Scale, published by Sahitya Prasar Kendra Nagpur. It was published in 2013. And her experiments in experiential learning led to the documentation of the students' study tour to Bhutan and the Harshil Valley. She has also co-authored 2 books, Anubhuti 1 and Anubhuti 2. Madam has published a chapter on life cycle assessment methods and procedures and their role in measuring sustainability component of construction materials by Elsevier. Her research in the field of architecture has been an active part of her career, and Madam holds 3 IPRs and is credited with many research papers. The fondness of Dr. Chakradeo for heritage structures is evident in the numerous initiatives that she has taken to conserve and raise awareness of heritage structures among her students. Madam has been a member of the Heritage Conservation Committee of Nagpur Municipal Corporation since 2010. Madam has undertaken professional projects as architect and interior designer for government and private clients, and her work has led to the conceptualization of the term design for change. It is indeed a pleasure to have Honorable Madam Vice-Chancellor preside over the inaugural function today. And we now request Madam to inaugurate the Golden Jubilee logo of the Department of Education Technology.
Thank you so much, Rajni, and such a wonderful and elaborate introduction. Wonderful logo. So I announce this wonderful logo for completing 50 years of Department of Education Technology, and it has been designed wonderfully, and I announce it to be inaugurated. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, ma'am. I would like to share a little bit of trivia about the logo that you just inaugurated. A creative artist, visualizer, and close friend of the department, Mr. Dhananjay Mahakal, designed this logo, and the Department of Educational Technology will soon have a web page wherein they will display the logo and share the information with. And now, could you please share your presidential address to the participants?
Rajni, thank you so much once again. I have not yet overcome and come out of that kind of feeling after listening to Dr. Kasturirangan. It was a wonderful moment, and every word meant so many things. Deep meaning of every word is the essence of national education policy that we have learned recently. The document which has been presented as national education policy is such a small document. You hardly take 1 hour or 2-3 hours, sit together with the document and you read it and it's done. However, every time you read it, there is a meaning in between the lines. You need to ponder on the sentences. You need to sit and think about it. And today, when I was listening to the maker of these pages, these thoughts, this document, it was such a proud feeling. And it was a feeling that we have done, nothing beyond can remain. I congratulate Dr. Jayashree Shinde for arranging such a program on the occasion of 50th anniversary of the department. A long journey, 50 years is not a small period. Though I would say it's a period which is much lesser for the institution, particularly SNDT and this department. We are thinking about marching ahead for so many years. So when an institution would be living for many years, this becomes the youth or maybe even a childhood of the institution, I would say. This institution has marched and come to this level, and it has been nurtured by so many well-wishers, and not only well-wishers, by the hands of the experts who have brought it and developed it and further brought it to this level. Dr. Vasudha Kamath, who is not only the mentor of this department, former Vice-Chancellor of SNDT, WU, as well as maker of NEP. Her presence in this August gathering is something which is so wonderful. And we feel blessed to have you, ma'am, here with us. And I particularly feel blessed to be a part of an organization which is 106, more than 106 years old, and with an ideology which is so peculiar, which is so important, which is so grounded, which is so contextual, and which has been a part of me also for a long, long time. I was introduced to be an architect and a planner. However, I feel I have been in association with young girls and in their education, along with their for their education for such a long time. I joined my career as a teacher long ago, as a teacher of the young girls who were intending to learn interior design. And then onwards, it was always with these young girls. At this juncture of my career, I have been put by the destiny again at such a point where the number is increased, but I'm still in constant contact with young girls. There should be a reason for this, that I have been always placed in a position to understand the importance and the issues which always keep bothering, always are dealt with by the young girls. How do they think? What do they feel? And how do they behave? What are their issues? Why do they behave in this manner? Probably destiny wants me to do something about it, and that's why I am here. And it's a pleasant and pleasure, and it's a blessed moment for me to be a part of SNDT Women's University. The legacy of the university is no small, and I understand it. The responsibilities on my shoulders increase when I see that so much has already been done by the experts and the past vice-chancellors who have been mentoring this university. Moreover, this is something which is so great that about 106 years ago, a personality like Maharshi Dondokeshwar Karve thought about this university and blessed the entire society of India, and maybe not only India, but the entire world, to deal with the important issue of education of young girls. Sanskrita Parashakti is the motto of this university. And when we sing the song, every part of your body gets charged, and you are again reminded with the responsibilities that are there for taking every step, every coordination for education of girls. National education policy, I've been always very much interested. Before that, before I start talking a bit about it, at this August Forum, in the presence of experts who have been the makers of this, I need to pull my courage together to talk a bit about national education policy. The present audience, I'm aware, there are experts from the field of education. There are well-wishers, all those who have logged in. There are teachers, my students, and also I think Dr. Kasturirangan has left, but really it would have been very difficult to talk in front of them about national education policy and about our understanding and our interpretations about it. The first draft, when it came, I'll make an attempt. We are trying our own ways. There are various efforts which have been taken up at the university level also. Good or bad, the time will tell us. But there are mentors who are always guiding us. Like Dr. Vasudha Kamath is watching us, and we will be soon sharing the draft which would be ready and for the implementation of national education policy. I've been always fortunate, I don't know how, but then to be associated closely and observe closely the making of national education policy. When the first draft came and the appeal was made to give our opinion, I was in the movement where we started collecting the opinion of the public. And I'm fortunate enough to say that there are more than 1 lakh opinions were collected by us together as a team and shared. Probably some of them might have been a part of the actual policy also. We read it, we shared it, we talked about it, and we said, now is the thing that we were talking, my generation as well as my parents' generation. We always talked about what is this going on in the schools? Why are children being taught in this manner? And we were always perplexed, and it was a sort of a distress. But we used to talk about it over the cup of tea. As soon as we put our cup, like me, there could be many others also. Like after the cup was empty, we put it down on the table, and then we would say, we would start with another. But one very important aspect we were forgetting, all of us were forgetting, that there is a close association between the society, which looks like, which thinks like, and which appears to be the way it is today, and the education, the kind of education through which that society has gone. This link of education and the society and its close association, though we forgot with a cup of tea, but there were experts, there were people who were thinking about it, and then they were the makers of this policy. Today, Sir talked so many things about the policy, especially the multidisciplinary aspect, and so widely it can be implemented. If we just talk about multidisciplinary education and connect it to various departments, various fields, as a human being, we are to become a holistic person and to look at every aspect of our existence. Probably multidisciplinary becomes a smaller word. That is what I realized once again when Sir was talking about national education policy and its nuances. And when he mentioned about so many things, the way we look at it, I am reminded of a story of the elephant and the 4 blind people. And when we talk about they start describing it in their own, with their own experiences. The same thing is with the national education policy, and our understanding of multidisciplinary aspects and approaches to the subjects are so specific, so small, but we sit together, we discuss about it, and we have a large group which would help us. So many people think simultaneously, and then we arrived at certain things, and these are the certain things which may look like very small ones, but that's a baby step towards the implementation of national education policy at SNDT. And this small, we were happy at right from this coming academic session, probably be able to do that. And this multidisciplinary approach, when we started talking about it and discussing, I could sense the enthusiasm amongst the entire, all the members of SNDT. I have been talking about it, and I think there is so much to this policy, which I would like to, I'm just forced to share about it or talk about it for just within my time limit, of course. The education when my parents started, it was only through lectures and memorizations. But in my generation, that is education too, we started talking about slightly later dates, of course, internet-enabled learning and open sources we started taking up. And in education 3.0, knowledge producing education we talked about, and that was the focus. And now with NEP, it is education 4.0, that is innovation promoting education. We're not just interested in educating the people, but we want them, national education policy wants them to be innovative. Education policy therefore puts lots of emphasis on the development of the creative potential of individuals, and it develops the education is a key enabler and the best tool of achieving economic stability, social mobility, inclusiveness, and equality. All that is possible through education, and that's how national education policy would like to address to. I would like to just very briefly talk about that. Earlier, we talked about behaving properly, or education would bring about a behavioral change. But now we are talking about, through national education policy, if I'm not very wrong, ma'am, that it is cognitivism, constructivism, and metacognitivism that we talk about. Earlier, we give lots of importance to guru and the teacher. Yes, that's important, and that will remain even now. However, there is a dramatic shift now in our pedagogy from teacher-centric education to learner-centric education, and that will be possible through this. Individual learning, from individual learning to cooperative learning, collaborative, participatory, and these are the ways in which we would, national education policy would like the pedagogy to happen. Expository learning, and from expository learning to discovery learning, and from linear approach to non-linear approach. These are very small things. Integration of Indian languages, sir also talked about it so elaborately, and he mentioned about the integration of Indian languages, but I would say that's something which we would be able to take it up, but I'm not very sure that we would be taking up at the first phase at SNDT, but later on surely. And one thing is for sure, with education technology department around here, technology enabled learning is the soul of SNDT. And that's why it can become a part of transformational change to that can bring in the transformational change in online education experience. And because online education, we have been talking so much about it in our past, that's where what we just say that we go to Zoom and it's online education, but there's so much of detail that we need to learn about it. and it enhancing the regular classroom and based pedagogy will have to change so much. We would try to bring all those changes here at SNDT. It could offer more flexibility and learning support into the traditional format. Technology offers teachers the opportunity to become more collaborative and extend learning beyond classrooms. So we as teachers will have to learn about it. Policy talks so much about digital learning. It talks about so many other things, but I feel it's pertinent right now for me to talk only about this particular aspect a little bit more because we are talking on the occasion of our 50 years of education technology department. This education technology department, which has been helping all other departments of SNDT to become technological friendly, to understand the meaning of digital learning, which goes beyond online learning. It has something to do with the blended learning. Department has always been taking initiative in creating e-learning contents. So what is this e-learning? What is the difference of e-learning from virtual learning? And how is it different? How is it being catered by the virtual universities, skill development universities? How these can be integrated by digital learning or through digital experiences and technology. Digital learning, ICT, and the technology is going to help us reach the farthest area of our remotest area of our country. Access, equity, quality, affordability, and accountability, which are just the words right now. But if we look into each word in detail, the programming can be done of the academic content of the university, and the entire thing can be revolutionized. And where we have been talking about only teaching, now we would be talking about learning. So there are various such ways in which we can actually deal with the technology. But these technologies and other aspects, when Sir was talking about national education policy and liberal education, I thought this is the ground. SNDT is the place where this will happen. There has been a mad rush in the society to take admission to IITs, and they start preparing. We at SNDT could prepare a ground where this rush will change its direction to Indian Institute of Liberal Arts. Day is not far away when the entire mindset of the society, which is so technology focused and which is so science focused, will understand that art also has an important role to play in. And women who is, when once enlightened, will be able to cater to all the other aspects of the society holistically. This is what we at SNDT are trying to look at, work at, and achieve at, with the blessings of Almighty, with the guidance of all our experts, and with the helping hands and the enthusiasm of all the teachers and the students and all other stakeholders at the university. I'm sure at SNDT, through NEP, we would be able to bring about a dramatic change in the society around, and days are not far away when we would be talking about the changes and which have arrived, which have come. Thank you so much that we have organized such a program, and you all are participating in this and are being part of this change which is in making. Thanks once again.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for always guiding and motivating us. Thank you, ma'am. May I now request Dr. Madhavi Dharankar, Associate Professor, Department of Educational Technology, SNDT Women's University, to propose the vote of thanks. Ma'am, over to you.
Thank you very much, Rajni. The wonderful inaugural session that we all have been experiencing up till now is not a result of one person, but there is a whole lot of people behind it, and it is my pious duty to say thank you to all of them from the bottom of our heart. Firstly, we would like to thank respected Padma-Bhushan, Dr. Kasturirangan sir, who is the chairperson of NEP 2020 drafting committee. He agreed to be the chief guest of this very crucial event for us, and he gave very inspiring inaugural speech. It was developed quite a lot of vision for us. Professor Ujwala Chakradeo, Honorable Madam Vice-Chancellor of SNDT, who is always there to guide us and also agreed to inaugurate our logo for this year-long event, and also gave the wonderful presentation address. Our patrons for this program, again, Professor Ujwala Chakradeo and Professor Dinesh Prasad Saklani, who is Director NCRT. He could not make it today for the event, but both of them have been guiding this entire event. Apart from these two patrons, we have advisors, Professor Vasudha Kamath, who has been the ex-Vice-Chancellor of this university, and also the member NEP 2020 drafting committee, as well as Shri Vipla Bakshi. We are thankful to Professor Amarendra Behera, Director CIET and CERT, for partnering with DET in this milestone event. We are indeed thankful to all the speakers of keynote addresses, which are yet to happen now today and as well as tomorrow, for adding they will be adding a lot of intellectual treat, I'm sure, and also the resource persons of the various workshops during the events. Today we had 6 workshops, and tomorrow again we will be having 6. They have offered their time and expertise to enhance the skills of the faculty in higher education in the domain of education and technology. We are indeed thankful to all of you. We are also extending our thanks to Professor Ruby Oza, our Honorable Vice-Chancellor, SNDT, Dr. Vandana Sharma, Honorable IC Registrar, SNDT, the various guests, well-wishers, RRC and VOS members, HODs and principals, the faculty members and the participants for gracing this occasion. We are indeed thankful to the DET and the Teaching Learning Center staff who are supporting us technologically as well as logistically for organizing this inaugural event, and also helping us to make the live streaming available of the event on YouTube. Then last but not the least, we are indeed thankful to Ms. Rajni Nair, who is the faculty of Usha Mittal Institute of Technology, SNDT, for the wonderful comparing for this event. Thank you very much, Rajni ma'am, and over to Jashi ma'am.
Yeah, so we meet at 6 o'clock in the same link to listen to Professor Vasudha Kamath, how to implement and what are the responsibilities of higher education institutions towards implementation of NEP 2020. So we take a break of 20 minutes and we come back here. Thank you very much. See you soon. Bye for now. You can keep this link on, or otherwise again log in into the same link.